Some photos change how you see history forever. On this channel, we uncover the emotions time tried to erase and give forgotten faces a voice again. Subscribe and join us as we explore the hidden chapters of our shared past. Crowds climb the Berlin Wall as borders vanish overnight. A wall built to divide crumbles beneath the weight of unity and hope. The airship ignites above New Jersey skies. A marvel of engineering meets tragedy in a single burning instant. Visitors walk across a silent, frozen wonder. Nature pauses mid-motion, and even the roar of the falls becomes a whisper. Rows of empty shoes lie in silence, serving as a solemn reminder of the countless lives lost during one of history's darkest chapters. A mother pushes a sealed pram through quiet streets. You want to take your baby outside, yet to protect them, you must place them in a box. Amid ruins and silence, a girl clutches her doll. Children always find ways to begin again, but isn't this rubble too heavy for such small hearts? Luxury filled the room as passengers relaxed, unaware of what awaited. Beauty and tragedy shared the same voyage that night. A young boy calls out the sinking of the Titanic. The ship of dreams now rests below the sea, having stolen the hopes of so many. Indian scientists offer coconuts to an isolated tribe untouched for 60,000 years. Between gestures of peace and fear, two worlds meet but never merge. A young woman studies quietly beside her rifle during the Vietnam War. In her hands, words and weapons shared the same weight of survival. Citizens march against school desegregation in the American South. Children hold the signs their parents made, learning division before understanding equality. A black girl and a white girl reach through bus windows to hold hands. In that small gesture, years of separation begin to fade. One unlocked the secrets of the universe, the other mastered the flow of electricity. Two brilliant minds meeting quietly where science and wonder converged. Among friends in a mixed classroom, a young boy smiled at the future. None could know one of them would one day carry the hopes of a nation. On their wedding day, art and passion stood side by side. Behind her calm gaze waited both love and lifelong betrayal. The Beatles play to just 18 people in a small club. How far can persistence, dreams, and courage carry those who refuse to stop? War photographer Lee Miller sits in Hitler's bathtub on the day of his death, washing away Dachau's memory in a quiet act of defiance. A symbol of power from another land, gleaming beneath gray skies. Even revolution finds its reflection in luxury. Two revolutionaries share quiet waters off Cuba. Were they chasing fish, or the calm that power can never quite give? "17-year-old Jan Rose Casimir faced soldiers with a flower during an anti-war protest. Her quiet courage turned innocence into a lasting symbol of resistance. The women lined up as they always had. That morning, they began to relearn the simplest act of all, standing not in rows, but as human beings. The first Olympics in the Eastern Bloc opened with thousands performing in perfect sync, while a U.S.-led boycott over the Soviet-Afghan War shadowed the celebration. Female art students create propaganda posters urging vigilance. Each stroke serves a cause greater than art itself, where creativity becomes a weapon of persuasion. A black man sits on a whites-only bus, defying segregation. One seat became a battlefield where quiet defiance carried the weight of generations. In a small room far from battlefields, enemies turned allies raise their glasses. For a moment, peace feels simple, almost possible. At 15, she still smiled for her sister's small cake in the camp. 1 month later, she and her family were sent to Auschwitz. Her words and light remain her legacy. She left home seeking freedom, not safety. Beside Doc Holliday, she lived fiercely, proving that survival can be its own kind of love. In a Florida courtroom, a stage performer defended her rights with calm confidence. Before cameras and judgment, she transformed a moment of scrutiny into one of quiet strength and dignity. One soldier wraps another's wounded hand as the war grinds on. Their small act of care lingers longer than the sound of battle ever did. While men fought abroad, women worked the fields. Holding new uniforms and worn shoes, they carried both the nation's harvest and its hope. 2 women haul heavy ice blocks down city streets. Throughout history, women have carried the weight of every kind of work. A beach official checks skirt lengths for modesty. Freedom is sometimes something that must be claimed slowly, piece by piece. Women of the British Army guide searchlights through the dark. In cold and danger, they stand their ground, proving courage knows no gender. 3 Soviet pilots completed a record flight across Russia. In the sky, they carried both steel and hope, becoming the first women heroes of the Soviet Union. Health workers fight to save lives no matter the conditions. They give everything to help, even to those others might think cannot be saved. He grew like any other boy until 12, then began fading away. A life shaped by illness and spectacle reminds us how survival can become a show. Punished for stealing bread, she escaped and built her own life. Her scars became proof that no cruelty could break her. They stand proud before their fragile home, their closeness stronger than the poverty surrounding them. Hope still lives in their faces. A simple table set with potatoes, cabbage, and pie. Hard times could not silence gratitude. Warmth was shared even when food was scarce. A young boy smiles toward the sky, clutching new shoes. His joy at meeting a simple need, does it bring sadness or hope? Two young siblings stand together in a dim room, one cradling a newborn. Childhood seems distant as responsibility arrives too soon. At just 25, she held 9 young lives in her arms. Amid chaos and laughter, motherhood became her quiet act of strength. On a cold town porch, children laugh in the sun, remembering not the darkness where their fathers worked, but the brief moments of warmth they shared. They stepped onto the docks with worn shoes and hopeful eyes. Behind them lay hunger and war. Before them, a land still learning how to welcome strangers. A pioneer woman whose patience and strength carried her family across untamed lands. Her quiet courage became the foundation of stories that still inspire. hundreds of thousands gather for peace and music. A generation's heartbeat echoed across fields, believing harmony could still change the world. At City Hall Station, riders entered a new era. Its stained glass and arched ceilings made it a subway station that looked like a cathedral. A woman sits before a small glowing screen, watching moving images for the first time. The world begins to change inside her living room. French men in berets watch as Coke pours into glasses. Some called it modernity, but can drinking cola really define what progress means? Workers unload Norway's first shipment of bananas. A simple fruit becomes a symbol of change, carrying the taste of faraway worlds into northern hands. 2 people were needed to run it, one to pump and one to guide, a symbol of progress that still relied on labor's quiet strength. Invented by Philip Drinker and Louis Agassiz Shaw, the first iron lung helped patients breathe when their own lungs could not. A soldier wears a helmet fitted with chainmail to shield his eyes from flying debris. Even protection in war carries its own weight of fear. Indian troops arrive in Marseille to fight beside French and British forces. A small child's handshake bridged worlds at the dawn of a global war. A young commander sits in a carved chair, eyes fixed forward. The war has not yet ended, but the weight of history already rests on his shoulders. 2 American soldiers mark artillery shells with messages of defiance near the end of the war. Can humor exist everywhere? Is it hope, or simply helplessness in disguise? The first American troops step into a shattered city. Victory feels uncertain when every street still echoes with ruin. After the city fell without a fight, a German officer sits among the ruins, eating U.S. Army rations. In his quiet meal, defeat feels heavier than hunger. Captain Robert S. Marcus leads prayer among ruins of war. Faith becomes shelter when no walls remain standing. Soldiers gather to honor tradition far from home. In the shadow of war, memory and hope still share the same table. Delegates of the 4 powers stand before history. Among them, one woman proves that even justice can change its face. A young lawyer at her desk, surrounded by files and resolve. She would help shape the Nuremberg trials, where law spoke for humanity. Former prisoners carry the first coffins from the camp. Mourning and relief walk together, each step a fragile act of remembrance. Freed prisoners walk beneath the monument's arch. Liberation feels both heavy and hollow, when survival is the only proof of return. Dorothea Lange captured a woman's calm smile as her bag was searched, dignity and quiet defiance in a moment of injustice. Before each meal, children lined up in 4 tribes, earning points for discipline and order. In these small rituals, community and play shaped simple summer memories. Laughter fills a bar as soldiers share Cokes with their dates. Even in wartime, joy insists on being found. At the finish line, victory and collapse meet side by side. For some, triumph is joy. For others, it is simply the end of strength. Three men race under a pale Greek sky. The joy of achievement rises above every hardship, no matter how distant the finish line. A woman stands alone holding her sign against injustice during the Great Depression. Her voice, small but steady, speaks for thousands who had none. A wife washes her coal-stained husband after a day underground. Love becomes labor's quiet reward in the dim light of their home. Families flee Belgrade during wartime bombings, wagons heavy with all they own. The road ahead promised safety, yet carried the ache of what was lost. Captured just before mass deportation, these images show a calm before erasure. Everyday life continued briefly, unaware that exile was already on its way. Exiled from their homeland, Chief Joseph's family sits in quiet strength, holding the memory of a land they could no longer touch. Prince Kuhio sits beside his wife, mourning the last Hawaiian queen. His gaze holds both royal dignity and the loneliness of an ending lineage. A nobleman turned general, Wrangel led Swedish forces through Europe's great wars. His life was a balance of battle and governance, loyalty and ambition. On her wedding day, she became both bride and first lady. Youth met history and grace in a single white gown. A young Princess Elizabeth waves beside her uncle, the Prince of Wales. Before crowns and duty, she was simply a child beneath the Scottish sky. Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, stands among trees before fame reshaped him. In nature, he found peace beyond politics. Marshal Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim receives flowers from a young girl during the 20th anniversary of Viborg's liberation, a gesture of peace amid echoes of war. A teenage nurse turned fighter, she bore scars of war with calm courage, caring for others long after her own wounds burned. This photograph shows a room in the Hellman apartment at Rathausstrasse 17, Vienna. Light falls softly on framed memories and quiet elegance. Carl Nyberg, a Swedish man photographed in Knut Wallen's studio collection, stands with quiet pride. His still gaze reflects the strength of ordinary lives. A farming family in Maxmo, Finland. Isak Erik sits proudly on his horse while Susanna rocks gently nearby, their children gathered in sunlight. Horrell's Dairies was a family-run milk producer in post-war England. In the hum of machinery, workers filled bottles that carried daily hope and routine. Thatched roofs and woven fences stood against time in rural Ukraine. Life here was modest, fragile, and bound to the rhythm of the land. Crowds shout as 6-year-old Ruby Bridges enters an all-white school under guard. Her courage walked through hate so others could someday walk freely. A collision near Hammond claimed the lives of 86 circus performers. From the wreckage rose silence, smoke, and the smell of sawdust and sorrow. A mob gathers outside a county jail after failing to seize a black prisoner. Law prevailed that night, but what came after? Elvis Presley eats in the army cafeteria after being drafted. The world's biggest star, reduced to another uniform and a tray of rations. A young Bruce Lee trains with his Wing Chun master, Yip Man. From discipline and humility, he found the strength that would define a legend. Tyrone Howard is escorted away after a tragic incident at a department store. A season meant for joy turned into one of sorrow and shock. Before ultrasounds, every birth was a mystery. Nurses smile as a father faints, overwhelmed by love, fear, and the sudden reality of new life. Photographer James Rickalton stands between two Kashmiri guards during the British coronation celebrations. Cultures met in ceremony, power framed by tradition and human scale. Officials tried to drag Catherine Switzer off the course for being a woman. She kept running, proving determination could outpace discrimination. A Catholic woman and her Protestant husband rest side by side, their graves reaching over the wall that faith once built between them. The rope and clay seal lay unbroken for over 3,200 years. In that silence, the breath of an ancient world still waited. African Americans protest the Vietnam War, carrying signs that speak of injustice at home and abroad. Their message was simple: equality should not need a battlefield. Artist Salvador Dali kisses Raquel Welch's hand after painting her portrait. It's hard to tell if the gesture was courtesy or flirtation. Nikola Tesla sits calmly beside his magnifying transmitter as arcs of electricity fill the room. Science and spectacle meet in the quiet brilliance of invention. Audrey Hepburn shops in Beverly Hills with her fawn, Ippy, a surreal image of grace and gentleness where fame and tenderness walk side by side. High above Paris, workers repaint the Eiffel Tower without harnesses. Their balance and bravery hang between sky and steel, keeping beauty alive through danger. Titanic sails away from Ireland, her decks full of promise. Beneath calm skies, no one yet knows how brief her voyage will be. Customers in a London record shop test vinyls in private booths. Music becomes intimate, a small escape in a post-war world finding rhythm again. As soldiers march to war, a boy runs to his father's hand. Would they meet again, or was this the last touch between them? History never truly ends. It just waits to be remembered. If these faces moved you, subscribe and keep their stories alive. Thank you for watching.